Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Can-Am Missing Project, a categorized edition for our video channel, and this is a letters edition. Yes, I know the excitement is unbearable, but people are scurrying away as we talk. I know some of you don't like letters, some of you love the letters. So, we're going to do the best we can with the letters. And right off the get-go, I need to thank my law enforcement friends. The latest patch I've received. Thank you. Got a big collection of patches. And I love all the law enforcement people, rangers that watch the show. There are many, and thank you for your support and keeping in contact with letters, emails, etc. You are appreciated during these struggling times we are in. And if you are a National Park Ranger, U.S. Forest Service police officer, city police, or deputy sheriff, or federal agent, you are loved by this channel and the people that are on it. And every time I get an email from one of you, I usually try to get right back to you and tell you how much you are appreciated. And you are, trust me. So before we get going into the letters, Angie and I were fishing the other day on the Flathead River. And we made a promise to each other that during the summer months we'd try to get out as much as we can, because in the winter it's tough up here. And we live for our summers, so there's a couple times here in the summer where we had some decent stretch of good fishing and good weather, and we got out. So we're on the river, and there's a fire going on up on the ridge from where we're at. Safest place to be is on the river, so we're in good shape. Fire's going pretty good. And then way off in the distance, we hear a helicopter coming, which is good. Sometimes the Forest Service up here lets their fires burn, and sometimes they're disastrous. So they got a helicopter coming. Hey, Huck. Hey. Hey. What are you doing? How's it going? Hey, there she is. How are you? Come on. Come on. Come on. Yes, you're a good puppy. Yes, you're a good puppy. So, yes, you're a good girl. There's a, we're on a pretty big river. And as the helicopter is coming, I whip out my little camera that I'm using to take pictures of the fish we catch. And I got it on video mode, and it's a double rotor helicopter. It's huge. Flies right over us, I'm filming. Comes on, we're not sure what it's doing, but then it lands like right next to us in the river and hovers right over the river and drops this big hose down into the river and is sucking water up into it, take off and put off the fire. So a couple days ago I put that video up. It just happened. I put it up the same day it happened. I showed it to some people. They couldn't believe it happened right next to us on the river. So it's a pretty cool video. Get a chance, go watch it. In our serene piece of river. It was pretty weird. The other thing, after months of work behind the scenes that you guys never really know is going on, but Joe Hauser, who owns the Montana Vortex, have been working together to put on a big show for you up here, conference, and we got it together. Dates are set. It's a 3-day weekend. It's a federal holiday, October 7th, 8th, and 9th. The conference is October 7th and 8th, a Saturday and a Sunday, up here in Kalispell, at the Red Lion Hotel. And you need to really get here. Speakers, Tom Powell, famous, one of the best speakers in the world. Scott Nelson. Tom Powell's on Bigfoot and other assorted anomalies. Scott Nelson is a cryptolinguist specialist, spent 30 years in the Navy, speaks 7 languages. He's the one who deciphered the Sierra Sounds tape. Ron Moorhead, who did get the Sierra Sounds and wrote a book called Quantum Bigfoot, he's going to be here. Jonathan Dover, a Navajo Ranger, whose top administrators within his organization told him to go out and research Bigfoot and UFOs because they had so many sightings. He has a career of information, one of the best speakers I've seen on the topic. A Native American, just an all-around great guy. If you're a Native American, you want to see this person. And then Joe Hauser is going to talk, who owns the Montana Vortex. And Jim Myers, who owns a Bigfoot store in Bailey, Colorado, and talks about his transition from being working for a Christian organization to coming around to understanding the realities of Bigfoot. Super smart man, great speaker, and one of my best friends. That lineup is one of the best you will find at any conference anywhere, and we're bringing them in to Northwest Colorado. If you're in Washington, Idaho, Alberta, BC, Wyoming, you got to come to this. So here's the official poster lineup of speakers. This is a QR code right here. You can freeze frame, put your camera over that, your phone camera, and it'll take you to the link to purchase. We're calling it MontanaCon. Now, if you want a link to purchase, there's the link right there. You can freeze frame this and copy it. And the QR code if you want to freeze frame that. But I put on conferences in the past, and I won't put on a conference that's second rate. We'll fool with the dates, whatever is needed to make sure that we can get the right speakers in here. And the first day of the conference, Saturday, is going to be at the Montana Vortex. It's going to be just 100 people, and we're already sold a lot of those tickets, so get going on it if you want to do it. And we're going to have a catered dinner, really nice catered dinner on site. All of the speakers will be there for those 100 people to talk to, mingle with, ask questions, take photos. And then going to get broken up into groups, and you're going to go through and get a personalized tour by Joe. And Sunday, all of the speakers will be at the Red Lion for a full day of conference speaking. Unbelievable 2 days. I wanted to do it at the Vortex because we all know something really unusual is happening there, equal to Skinwalker Ranch. And because Jonathan Dover has gone to the ranch so many times, he's going to be able to tell us some really interesting things about what's going on there and his findings, etc. Again, I'm ecstatic. It's going to be great. So, that's enough of the hoopla. Hey, Huck, back again, huh? You back again? You want to say hello? Do you? It's pretty hot out, isn't it? Yeah, I know. You're a good girl. Hey, what you doing? Okay, she's gonna lay down for a bit. Back to start up the letters here. Hey, Dave. When you and Ben started this channel, it was to put your work out there to educate and inform. This is true. I recall you saying when you started that you didn't know if anyone would watch. 100% true. Look now what you and Ben have created. Ben has been a continuing presence on this channel because of your love for him. Viewers write in and discuss their mental health issues and their family's issues, and through your healing and sharing your sorrow, you and Ben have helped so many people. Because of you and Ben, I chaptered my son when he was suffering from suicidal ideation, when I did not want to because of an old episode that came up on autoplay. The letter you were reading was like a message directly to me from a higher spiritual power. The letters are important, Dave. People tell you stuff they've kept secret, stuff they need to talk about, but don't know and don't want others to know, except right here. stuff they don't want to admit to, even to themselves. It can't be about the numbers. Please weigh those numbers against the good you have done by being you and by keeping Ben close, sharing him with us. The letters, segments are where you're able to share them with us the most. Only a few of us have written in to say how you've helped us. You've helped so many more people than you even know. Some people don't want to hear about Bigfoot and UFOs. They think it's a bunch of nonsense. Some people don't care about missing people. But I think the root cause of the letters segment being less viewed is because some people do not want to hear about mental health issues. Yep. And all the other subjects viewers write in about because they don't want to get emotional. I've been caught off guard myself by particularly emotional or sad letters. Some people just can't deal with their emotions. Yep. Including me. They don't want to think about their own issues or their family members' struggle. They don't want to admit they need help and don't want to deal with it. They're not ready. Those of us who love the letter segments love them. I love everything you present to us. I will still watch if you stop the letters. I will miss them. You will too. You can read them, of course, but I think you will miss sharing them. I think sharing them helps you as much as it helps us. Please don't stop reading them just because the numbers are lower than the segments. The good you do in this world is worth so much more than some algorithm on a channel. Blessing to Angie, you and Huck. Good points. Good points. But I should say something to this. It's impossible for you to know how many different ways I'm pulled in on a daily basis. Angie routinely tells me she's never met anybody who works harder, longer than me. And whatever I do, I want to do it good. I want to do it better than everyone else. But it comes down to time. I've gotten a big push within the last 6 months by several people to do a podcast, like a radio podcast. I've been asked to do news shows, fill in for people. I've turned these things down because I really don't have enough time. And it's a propositional weigh-in. If I did podcasts, would I reach even more people? Maybe. If I reached more people, could I help more people? Maybe. If I took my time away from reading the letters and placed that in podcasts, would that maybe offset things and be better? I don't know. If I wrote more books, do I help more people with my books? Well, like this person said, she doesn't like Bigfoot, she doesn't like UFOs, well, doesn't like missing people. I think if you don't like one of those three, I would be surprised if you were here. Trust me about this. There's nobody that you know of that has been more decimated as a person by a death than me. And I put on a pretty good public face, but privately, just not the same person. So yeah, the letters help me, but I won't do something that's just going to help me. We'll see how it goes. But really, it's just all about my time. Next letter. It's been a while since I emailed you. I wanted to provide a little information that you may or may not be aware of. I'm a computer tech and a nerd. I recently was researching what can cause bit flips in computers randomly. Turns out cosmic radiation that is always present can make computers, cameras, phone lasers, anything with a computer system malfunction. This is such a problem that spacecraft and the ISS use multiple redundant computers to prevent failures. I think there is a correlation, but do not have any further evidence, and I'm not a researcher or investigator, so I didn't want this thought to go to waste. I believe that some of the interdimensional or cosmic supernatural phenomena is associated with some sort of radiation. If a UFO UAP, for example, gives off particles similar to cosmic radiation, it overwhelms the computers inside of our electronics during investigations and causes failures. Skinwalker Ranch or any supernatural investigator should implement some neutron counters or other detection software. They can provide 100% that equipment failures are being caused by this type of radiation, but it does not tell us where the radiation is coming from. If this is the case, we can start by insulating our electronics with lead or some other radiation blocking material. This would allow our electronics to function despite exposure to the radiation. I think the model would be to allow what NASA and other space developers are doing. In some cases, they use specific computers or specific insulation and utilize multiple computers that are redundant and have a consensus system to make processing decisions. I found all of this to be very interesting and possibly a step in the right direction to measuring in a quantitative way what may be causing these failures. I wanted to get that info to you as it will probably be more valuable to you than me in my daily work. Keep up the good work. We appreciate what you do. Along those lines, it's good information, by the way. I have been on film shoots in the middle of nowhere with our videographers. We've had multiple failures simultaneously on audio and video. Things that very experienced videographers said was impossible and they've never seen. Well, of course, we were in areas for a specific reason. And they soon became believers that there's much unusual phenomena in our environment. Hey Dave, just wanted to tell you how much my husband and I appreciate what you are doing to inform the public of missing persons and warn of the dangers. We have seen all of your movies. The Carl Higdon and Tom Messick cases are just two among many that continue to bother me. My heart hurts for these people and their families. Me too. We actually saw something we really didn't know what it was. We were out on the farm. It was calving season. We had just checked all the cows. My husband was on the tractor and I was driving the Ranger. He was stopped and pointing up in the sky. I stopped the Ranger and shut it off, got out and looked to where he was pointing. Low in the sky there was a very slow-moving, glowing white tic-tac object. There wasn't any sound, no wings. I grabbed my phone and took several pictures. It was a clear day, no clouds. As I understand, most of the time there are weather events. I didn't want to tell anyone due to the fact that I figured we would be ridiculed even from our family. About a year or two later, I sent the pictures to MUFON. I actually heard back from them wanting more pictures of what I had seen. I sent them. They called me and told me they couldn't tell me what it was, only that what it wasn't. Also asked me to let them know if we ever see any more. May God bless you as you continue this difficult journey. I can't imagine how hard these are on you. Prayers for you over the loss of your precious son. Thank you. So let me say something about this. Calving season. I know several stories of mutilated cattle during calving season and calves. You seeing something in the sky like this does not surprise me. I would ask any farmers, ranchers, if you know of cattle mutilations in or around or with people that you know, send them to me. This has me immensely interested on multiple arenas. And I've already started to make some inroads with some people on the topic. But I really need to get firsthand on scene with a couple of these in some of the areas. Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, I'd travel, I'd go, just let me know. And obviously all confidential. Never give up a name. Look, I just give approximate location, northwest corner of the state, northern, whatever. But I have been given a huge dossier on cattle mutilations. And I would be completely wrong to not follow up on what they've given me. So, thank you for that. Hey Jay, if I was just now watching a most recent segment of Letters from July 16th, I wanted much to tell you that I thoroughly enjoy the manner in which you make your videos. I'm very much interested in what you refer to as good, solid content. It is because of that content that I watch your videos, but I am especially appreciative of the way you do your videos. Perhaps I am very different from the letter writer who suggested that you glitz them up somehow in order to appeal to more people. In fact, I would be far less inclined to watch and to listen attentively to than if you were to change your presentation. Much of my enjoyment comes from the fact that the content itself is so solid, so straightforward, so unembellished, and so free of glitzy flourishes and attention-getting gimmicks. If you were to alter this, you would certainly detract from the value of the presentation. Keep up the great work. I get a lot of these comments. Newcomers coming in saying, hey Dave, why don't you use a screen and roll this and do that and edit this and edit that? Friends, it's all about time. I don't have time. I don't have time to even do this, but I'm doing it. I think it's important. But if you like glitzy, glamorous, go to Amazon, watch my first movie, Missing 411. Watch the second movie, Missing 411, The Hunted. Watch the third movie, Missing 411, The UFO Connection. I have used state-of-the-art graphics, and the films are, if I put them in front of you and you didn't know better, you'd think they were a $25 million effort. That's how good they are. I've been told by many, many people that they are the highest quality documentaries out there. So I appreciate that. Next letter. Hey Dave, been a fan of yours for many years, following the Missing 411, Bigfoot studies, Vanished, etc. I can't remember how I initially stumbled upon your work, but I think it was through my ex-husband, also a fan. Anyway, this isn't about that. We have some other things in common. I also work in law enforcement, and besides our interest in aforementioned subjects, I'm reaching out to you as a parent who has lost a child to suicide. I lost my teenager in the summer of 2017, and in fact, the next week is the anniversary date. That was my youngest of 4, and a very intelligent, strong-willed, feisty person from the time they were born. They loved true crime stories, horses, reading, and Justin Bieber. I miss them every single day. I will say, while it doesn't go away, it gets easier to carry. There are no words I can offer to help ease your pain or mine, but I wanted to let you know that there are those of us out there that understand and grieve with you. We're a part of a club, for lack of a better word, that we never wanted to be a part of, yet here we are. Losing a child in this manner puts us in a place of understanding about the world I don't think we would have otherwise. Good or bad, that's the truth. I've been wanting to write you for a while, but I procrastinate. I hadn't been watching your videos for a while, but I've been coming back around after visiting Bigfoot country in Washington. I'm glad that you keep moving forward and doing your work and honoring Ben. Thank you for sharing your heart, your pup, and reminding us to take care and be kind on a nearly daily basis. In my experience, I think the best thing we can do for ourselves and others is to move forward in love. I'm reminded of a saying I read recently, that grief is just love with nowhere to go. Grief is just love with nowhere to go. Because our loved one is now missing, what do we do with that love and care we had for them? I feel like the best thing to do is to continue to share that love with others. And we are reminded how important that is. Every single day, love and be loved. That is the best way we honor them. You're in my prayers. Grief is just love with nowhere to go. You guys just don't know how hard that hits me. Because when Ben took his life, a portion of my own family stopped talking to me. They couldn't handle talking about Ben's life and Ben not being here, so they just pushed me away, pushed Angie away. So not only did I lose Ben, I lost a significant portion of my family. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everyone just wants to sweep it under the floor. It's a disaster. Hey Dave, I just wanted to say I finally watched your Missing 411 National Airlines video from last month, June 16th, a second time. If I end up watching a third time, then I'll have to write each incident down, the year it occurred, and the details. And after it's all organized, I'll be able to see a clear picture of all these incidents in this particular show. I can understand all of your other shows by watching just one time. You're probably the first person to ever take seriously airline incidents spread out over a series of years and show their undeniable similarities. Your ability to organize these events is absolutely stunning. This pushes us villagers hard. You still occasionally do this with the missing people phenomenon. Some of them span more than just a few months or years. Some seem several years. I'm sure one reason why some law enforcement officers, if not all, do not thoroughly investigate would be due to the fact that some officers leave to work for another jurisdiction in the same state or another state, while other officers retire and just leave the profession. I'm sure there are other reasons. Thanks for being here. So one of the things I've stated many times, there were a handful. There were 1,400 officers in San Jose when I was there. I think there's only a little over 1,000 now. But of those 1,400, I think they had about 250 that worked various detective roles. And of that 250, there were a small handful that were unbelievable. Not good investigators, great. And I knew who they were early on in my career, and every time I could hang around them and learn, I did. And what's really bothered me over the years is that all of that experience, insight, intellect just gets turned away when they retire. I honestly wish that those guys and gals, ladies, I wish there was some place we could go where we could read, watch, gain insight into that ability so that the new investigators coming up could get that. Because trust me, it's not every investigator that's super brilliant. Everyone I met worked hard, don't get me wrong. But to find the brilliant ones and to lose them through retirement, it's a big loss. Next letter. Dear Dave, Angie, and Huck. Oh, Huck got a mention. Been following your show for a few years as it validates for me many things I've witnessed throughout my life. I'm 61 now, grew up on Mount Angeles Road, 10 miles from Hurricane Ridge and Olympic National Park in Port Angeles, Washington. From the age of 14 to 17, I used to pack fishing gear and ride my horse up towards what's called the heart of the hills, towards Hurricane Ridge to fish. On many trips, my horse would start pawing the ground, snorting and getting very upset. Just after a strong skunk-like smell and a thick atmosphere type of feeling. On one occasion, I stopped to let her graze in a meadow next to me while I ate a lunch I'd packed. It was a still, sunny day, no wind. I looked out the tree line and a slightly white, translucent wave of light, which came out of nowhere, started moving through tall Douglas firs and cedars as if it was a wind, but I know it wasn't. Just the area this energy force was moving was swaying the trees back and forth, no wind anywhere else. My horse became immediately startled. I got her quickly packed, and that horse refused to stop running all the way home. Pay attention to animals. I've read where many others have witnessed this as well. At age 19, I played guitar and sang in local restaurants, and while driving to my gig one evening just slightly before dark, I pulled over on First Street because a cigar-shaped craft was slowly flying over Port Angeles. I got out of my van to check because it was not a blimp, and it was as big as a 747 with no wings, and it had a small circular object following a little ways behind it at the exact speed. They were a light charcoal gray in color. A man who was finishing mowing his yard looked up to see what I was looking at and yelled, "What is that?" I said, "I have no clue." Then he seemed quite scared and hurried towards his home and went inside. Friends, if they want you, that's not going to help you. At age 20, my grandmother's boyfriend, a man named Hank, who used to blaze trails in the 40s for Olympic National Park, told me that one of the workers was abducted and taken to a cave by Bigfoots, who offered him their food and just kept him for a few days as they were curious about him. He was, of course, scared out of his wits, and he was carried by Bigfoot back to the original trail he'd been working on to find Hank and the crew who had been searching for him for a couple of nights. And the man could barely tell what happened as he was in a state of shock. Hank told me he knows this guy wouldn't lie, and absolutely no reason to, according to Hank. The guy said a female and a young Bigfoot were offering him food and staring at him for hours, curious, touching him, smelling him, etc., and did nothing to harm him. Anyways, at 25, I married a man in the Coast Guard who was stationed in Port Angeles, and we both witnessed flying saucers 3 times in Port Angeles. And when he had 24-hour duty at the station, they had at least 20 to 100 calls per night of reports of UFOs. When my husband and I moved to Seattle, Washington for next year's 4-year station, we continued to see these craft as well as a huge mothership that hovered over the apartment in Edmonds, Washington, where we lived. When I tried to take pictures of the craft, the film came out black, empty, even with a Polaroid camera. In '91, we moved from Seattle to Memphis for a 4-year rotation. One day while I was driving to Millington, where my husband was to have lunch, I looked over at the fields on the way driving and saw something huge with a bat-like webbed wings flying along the trees that skirted one of the fields. It had a long tail and fur on the body. I had no place to stop and observe, so I slowed down. Whatever it was saw me and flew faster into the trees for cover. The body had to be 3 times the length of a blue heron bird. We didn't see any UFOs in Memphis. He retired, moved to Nashville in '94 into a condo that had Civil War ghosts that were not harmful. We had an Apache shaman come over to send them to the light, and after a year they left. That was smart to do. In 2003, my 8-year-old daughter ran in front of the back porch screaming that there was a man in the trees going back and forth. I went out to the tall pine trees behind our home and looked to where she was pointing and saying, "Do you see him?" I didn't see him, but she said he was like a man, but not a man, and translucent almost, and she was very scared. In 2015, my 10-year-old son and I had just attended evening church, and I stopped at a MAPCO to fill up with gas. My son pointed at the sky 300 yards up and said, "What is that, Mom?" It was a small saucer, approximately 20 feet in diameter, lit up with a glow of a beautiful light blue around the top and a beautiful pink glow around the bottom. Inside was more of white light and a humanoid figure. I could not make out any features. I watched it slowly gliding silently towards us at a busy gas station and wondered if the humanoid wanted to communicate something. As soon as I wondered that, it started backing away. Meanwhile, I tried to take pictures, and the cashier who knew me from coming to that station regularly for gas came out asking me what I was taking pictures of. I pointed to the craft. He became scared, shook his head, and looked again and started shaking and ran in the store. Again, my pictures turned out black. I know this is a long collection of things I've witnessed in my life, and you all get many long stories. I would like all people who listen to you who have had so many of these experiences to know that they are not crazy. I and others have seen them as well. I would sure like to know why all these people are being abducted and some killed and some never found. It's just awful. And I search my mind and heart quite often asking what is going on and why. Thanks for your show and your honesty and diligence. I pray in the name of Jesus that full disclosure comes from all what is going on, so those innocent people will be safe from danger. I pray for you and Angie and all the care of finding out what is really going on. Great stories. Interesting stories, too. I suppose we all want to know what's going on. Next letter. Before I tell you my story, there's some general comments. First, on why you seem to have more ads attached to your channel than others is all algorithmic. The simplest answer is that a higher percentage of your viewers watch the entire video and that more ads play through. I do so with all my favorite channels because it sends money to you. If you get more attentive viewers, you will be served more ads. Second, I really appreciate your reviews of Skinwalker Ranch show. I don't have the History Channel, so only see the clips and older episodes. Your analysis helps me keep up and brings up points I may not have considered. I live in a small house in the small town of South Central Texas for 15 years, until it burned by arson just recently. The Hispanic family across the street often invited me over for a barbecue and beer. One day they relayed to me their experiences with little people, not dwarfism. There's a man in his late 40s, his children and his mother. It was her place. He and his ex-wife were the previous residents of my home. The first experience was from his mom. She and her late husband had raised their children in a place further down the street. One day when she was a young mom, her eldest son, who was a toddler at the time, was asleep in the living room. She was washing dishes in the kitchen. She felt a tugging on her skirt and thought her son had awakened and sought her out. She turned around and there was what she described as a little woman, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, standing behind her. The small woman was not much taller than her toddler son. Round down the hall towards the front room, my neighbor ran after her. She saw her again as she turned into the living room where her son still napped. As she went into the living room, the small woman was gone. The front screen door was closed and latched. Years later, her youngest son, one living with her, was living in the house I bought. He and his wife had 2 children as well as a preteen son by her first marriage. One day his wife was at her job and the older boy at school. He was a mechanic who worked out of their home. There was a 2-section house with a connecting hallway with a door to the carport in which he had a pool table. He was doing odd jobs in the carport. The younger children were asleep in their room and the door to the hallway was open. He heard a sound, turned, and saw a little man, again dressed in what he called old-fashioned clothes, in the doorway, who turned and ran back towards the children's room. He followed him, and again the small person disappeared. Another time he walked out one evening to the carport and saw the same little man standing by the pool table. The little man ran across the street with incredible speed and disappeared into the darkness between the homes. Another man visiting when the stories were told exclaimed that he had seen 2 of the little people, male and female, half block away at one night, standing in the shadows of some trees. He thought he'd seen a trick of the light. I did some research online and found that there were numerous reports of Hispanic people in South Texas seeing what by descriptions were Germanic gnomes for decades. There were always small children nearby. The old world stories say gnomes and elves steal children. Then one morning I awakened before daylight, needing to visit the bathroom. It was raining lightly and had rained much of the night. There was a regular pulsating light coming in the windows and reminded me of the beacons on utility trucks. I got up, and as I reached the end of my bed, I glanced in the rear window, and a tight beam of white light shone straight into my eyes from a point outside. About 2 feet above the ground, without any blinding effects, I had to finish my bathroom business, then rushed outside via the hallway door to the carport. The rain had paused and the sky full of clouds. There was no utility truck, but the regular pulsing light continued 3 blinks, then a pause, repeating. It was coming from the cloud directly over my house. I went to the back and found nothing out of the ordinary. The light stopped a while longer as the sun rose. Once several years earlier, I had, as was my habit, laid on my back on my picnic table in the backyard, looking at the sky, studying the stars. Directly overhead was a flash of light like a high-altitude airplane. I expected to see it again as it traveled across the sky, but that didn't happen. A few minutes later, a shooting star went due north, originating in the exact spot as the flash. Moments later, another. I think these events in the blinking light, 3 shooting stars, the weird beacon flashing in the storm, and the beam into my eyes, and my neighbor's reports of very fast little people are all connected. Was the blink of light, was a mothership arriving via a portal? Were the little people seen by my neighbors, star people, grays, etc., appearing in culturally relevant form? There were other strange events in the neighborhood. Thanks for all you do. Little people. When I was in Hoopa, I had more competent, trustworthy, impeccably spoken people tell me about little people that they had seen in the woods. There's something about it that's true. It's like Bigfoot. Who really knows where they're from, what they're doing, etc. But the one thing that was always stated is they were incredibly strong, incredibly fast, and highly mischievous. So that's the letters for today. Thanks a million for being here. Please pass them along, put them on your social media. Help us out with this letters section. Let's try to get more going on. And remember, MontanaCon, order tickets soon. All right? Have a great day. Be kind to your neighbors. Be kind to yourself. Paulides out.